we're gonna play a little game. We're gonna prompt ChatGPT to come up with a scene for us to act out.
I was just loafing around.
Stop right there. You, sir, are in the wrong business. What do you think? Shall we stick to that or Les Mis next?
I'll stick to night school, but you, Jimmy, you might have a future on the stage.
Now that I've officially made a fool of myself in more ways that I'd like to remember, I'm feeling peckish and in need of a drink. So Harvey and I head for some grub and conversation at the Six Social House in Studio City.
Harvey, let us turn our phones off.
Yes.
I'm glad you didn't fight me on that,
No.
'cause that would have been rude.
I have a chip in my head so they can call me directly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. Look at our summer drinks.
I know. What did you get? A lemon drop?
A lemon drop.
What is that?
It's like a lemonade, but with alcohol. And it's a
Wow.
martini.
Is this like you're being like a child, but also
I'm an adult.
An adult
I'm a
child?
grown-up. I'm a grown-up child. Yeah.
I like
so,
the face. So you're a theater kid.
I'm a theater kid, yeah.
What was your first show?
That I did or that I fell in love with?
Both.
Well, I fell in love with Annie when I was like 5 or 6, and it was on TV, and I thought it was a new TV show. Because we were really poor, so we didn't go to theater, so I didn't know that was a movie. I hadn't gone to the movie theater until like I was probably like 9 or 10. So I was watching this new TV show called Annie, and it was, the 1984 film.
Yeah.
It was just really fun, and I just remember watching it and thinking, this is great. Like, this is a great TV show. And I remember thinking, I want to do that. I want to be that when I grow up.
Annie.
I want to be an orphan. And I told my mom, I want to be that when I grow up. I want to be an orphan.
Yeah.
And she looked at me weird and she was like, ¿Qué? ¿Estás loco? And I was like, I want to be that. Like, oh, son actores or actors. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to be an actor. But we were very poor, so like I was like, how do I become an actor? She said, you got to get training, and I don't have money for that. And she was a single mom, and I was like, well, how do I get training? Ooh, got some food.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yum.
Brussels sprouts, mac and cheese fritters, buffalo cauliflower, and the fried pickles.
You got all the good stuff.
I got all the stuff to clog the arteries.
Yeah.
For tonight's feast, some crispy Brussels sprouts with a gochujang honey glaze, buffalo cauliflower with a side of ranch dressing, mac and cheese fritters, and fried pickles. And to add to the unhealthiness, a mushroom truffle pizza. That's wild mushrooms, mozzarella, garlic cream sauce, and truffle oil, as well as a New York strip steak with peppercorn sauce and a side of Parmesan fries.
Growing up, very poor, I didn't know that I was poor because I was happy.
Yeah,
like,
you wouldn't.
You don't know.
Yeah,
until
you don't know
someone
that
else-
stuff.
Someone points it out. Mm-hmm. Someone points out, like, you're wearing the same shoes 3 years in a row. It points out, hand-me-down clothes or whatever it is. Like, someone points out that you are not, the upper echelon or whatever. And it was just crazy to think that, for me, it was that moment. I was like, oh, there's a difference. And like how people have the arts accessible to them or training. Yeah. And how it's not.
It is a luxury.
It's a luxury.
Yeah. But also at the same end, if you're able to do it, you're kind of all on the same level. Like there's no class system.
Exactly, because there's no one's dividing like will the classes be sitting according to class? It's like no one's doing that.
It's just
like,
who's good.
Who's good? You're good. You're good. Or you're not. You're not.
Yeah.
And I don't care what your background is, where you're from, or your situation. It doesn't matter. Either you have the goods or you don't.
Oh, fried pickles. Fried pickles, man.
It's like the LA County Fair.
Oh, yeah.
Or any fair, I guess. I raised the money to take that class.
Oh.
The way it happened was, I went home and I asked my mom for the $12, and she said, no, we don't have money for that. And I was really defeated. She could see it in my eyes and my face. And she said, hey, I didn't say you couldn't do it. I said that I don't have the money to provide that, but if you can find your way, you can do whatever you want, because this is America. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow. And I was like, I can. I'm like, 5 or 6. And
that's young.
That's pretty young. But my mom was very she was always a good parental figure. She provided for us, but she was always very straightforward with us. I think sometimes there's something happens when you cuddle or you sugarcoat things to kids, and they live in a bubble. And then by the time that bubble gets burst, they get disappointed that that's how the world they've been living. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they were always very honest with us, even though sometimes being honest was not what we wanted to hear. You know, like it was like, we don't have the money for those classes. And I was like, I would have rather hear that than her make up a lie and say, oh, that's, you know, that's for criminals, you know, or like make up an excuse for not providing.
Yeah, try to like deflate you.
Yeah, and she didn't do that. She was just like, you could do it if you want. And I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I wanted to do it. But I was, you know, walking home from school with her one day, and we walked by a park, and there was a homeless man going through trash cans. And I was like, Mom, what is he doing? And he's like, oh, vende los botes. He sells the cans. And I was like, you make money from trash? Thank you.
Thank you.
And I said, you make
money from trash?
Yeah. And then she said, yeah. And I ran into her closet, got a wire hanger and hooked it into a long finger. And then I went under the sink and I got a Food for Less trash bag because there was a Food for Less down the street from us. And I started collecting cans.
No way. You collected cans to make money to do theater.
Yeah, but I paid for the class. And I was in that class, and just having that crackle of being on stage, just like that instant rapport with an audience. They were like, you know, it wasn't like an acting class like Shakespeare. It was like the 6-year-old kids, or like 5 and 6-year-old kids were put with the, you know, from 5 to like 9, and it was like babysitting. So those kids got to do like the, okay guys, now we're lions, you know, we're we're this, and the older kids got to do like improv. We need a recommendation from the audience. But it wasn't that for us. So like, but for me, just doing that, like even being a lion, like, and people laughing at the choices I was making, I was like, whoa, what is this? This instant rapport with an audience that theater gives you, you know? And I never forgot it because I was like, whoa. And at the end of class, the teacher was like, okay guys, that was it for this class. Make sure you tell your parents about next class. And you're like, oh my God. It took
Wait,
me,
so
like,
you just paid for that one
class?
It was just one class?
Yeah, and I was like, because it was like a Saturday, like kind of for a couple of hours kind of thing. And I was like,
wow.
Oh no. And I was like, I do this again. And do I want to collect trash? And it's so gross and disgusting. And after realizing what happened on stage, I was like, yeah, I want to do it again. And so I kept doing it to like get training, like dance classes.
Did you do the can thing again?
Did the can thing? I mean, I did everything, like sold cans. And when I got a little bit older, and lied about my age to this like crook who went around low-income communities putting posters saying, are you a teen between the ages of, you know, 13 and blah, blah?
Well, that's creepy.
I know. And I was like, I'm going to call this number. I think I was at the time maybe 9 or 10. And I lied by that point. I was like, I'm 13.
And this was to get into
To
what?
get into California. I won't even say the name because I don't want to give them any credit. But like it was a fake teen group from California that goes door to door selling chocolates and like little knickknacks. He would buy the items at the 99 cent store for $1. He would make us sell it for $5, and we get $1.25, and he kept the rest.
Oh, it was one of those.
It's a scheme. I convinced my mom that like to let me get into the stranger's van.
Whoa.
So,
Okay. You got very lucky.
yeah, I did. I could have been murdered. Like,
It could have gone a lot of different ways,
yeah, a lot of different ways. And
especially at that age. I mean,
I became his bestseller because I was like using the whole acting technique of like, I go to door and be like, hi, my name's Harvey and I'm with blah, 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 and I'm 1 box away from going to Six Flags or whatever. And be like, oh, I'm diabetic, I don't eat chocolate, but you know, let me give you $5. And they'll give you $5. But I would sell a lot of the boxes and people would pay, you know. I think it worked to my advantage that I was younger and I like what looked younger, but I was out of the streets and people were like, how old are you? And I was like, 13. Yeah, and they're like, okay. Yeah, you look, you could be 13. I was like, okay, that's offensive.
and all this money was to pay for acting.
For all, like acting,
Theater.
anything I needed, my dance shoes, blah, blah, blah. At one point, my mom thought I was stealing because I would keep my money in this like red Chuck E. Cheese box. And she found it and it was just wads of like money. Like, I mean, you could open it and it would bounce up with like how much. Because it was level 1, people tip you and whatever. And she thought I stole it. She's like, oh my God, something. No, I was like, Mom, you know I have a job. Like, you're not making that kind of, I mean, I was raking in. Like, there would be good Saturdays when I come home with $150. I think it's funny when people say, you know, oh, it's so great to see you on this. And you're such an overnight success. And I was like, overnight? Like, I was like, this
is that what people say to you?
Sometimes, yeah, people who just discover you, like, oh, I just saw you on this thing. I can't wait to see where your career goes. And I was like, okay. And it's just like, you know, yes, that's really nice and support, but someone's always discovered you. Like, today's their first day.
You get a lot of like, because you're in this, I feel like you're in like the cult category in a way, right? Wouldn't you say?
I think so, yeah.
Because
for some things, yeah.
Well, I mean, what we do in the shadows is
Yeah.
I mean, it's a huge show, but I feel like there's a cult aspect to it, right? Because you're doing these like conventions, and you have people that are like hardcore with it, right?
Yeah.
So that's got to put you in a different. Does that ever get weird?
I mean, it didn't really hit me. I didn't even think of it as a cult thing because it was such a critic darling when it first came out, and it was like, if you knew, you knew, which is kind of a cool thing to like. It's like, if you watch the show, you're like, oh, okay, cool. You know, cool comment. You know, because the first season we did okay, and it wasn't like an overnight like, whoa, everyone's talking about it. It was word of mouth.
Totally.
And it wasn't until like third season that people were like, I just discovered this new show, or when we started streaming on Hulu, I just discovered this new show, or like whatever it was, and that, like I said, you're always somebody's new discovery. People come up to me at cons like this year, they just discovered the show 4 weeks ago. 4 weeks ago, I mean, like we're in season 5, and they're like, I binged watched it, like me and my husband or whoever, my partner.
It's amazing you could do that.
They just went from beginning to end.
Being in this kind of that sort of genre, I imagine you've had some pretty weird interactions at these conventions and stuff.
I mean, like, convention-wise, I haven't had too many weird ones. I think I've had, like, weird messages. Like, I remember when I was in my first show ever, I think it was years ago, on ABC Family, which is now called Freeform. I used to have one young lady who would send videos of her just sending really nice comments, but it was always, like, low-watt lighting in a room.
Okay.
And it was like Facebook days of like sending the page to like, you know, the show page or directly to you, like your personal page. Back then, like when you're starting out, you're like, whoa, somebody found me on Facebook? That's so cool.
Yeah.
You know, that's so nice. And they were really nice and generous. And then they started getting a little creepier and they were just like really kind of like, you know, and then the air conditioner would always be on in the background and it was like humming and like they're in like low lighting. You can't really see their face. And they would be like, hi, Harvey.
Oh, God.
And you're like, oh, and then it's like, I just think that if we ever met in person, we'd be, I don't know, real friends, or maybe more. And it's like,
whoa.
I've actually had fans who come up to me and are disappointed that I'm not like Guillermo, you know, because Guillermo's very submissive and quiet and he's soft-spoken, and I'm not. you know?
Yeah.
And when they meet me, they're like, oh my God, Guillermo, can I give you a hug? And I was like, it's like it's a lot to ask for someone in your personal space.
To
like,
give you a hug.
Yeah.
Yeah, right,
I always think of like Jerry Seinfeld, who like, you know.
With
no
Kesha,
thanks.
he was like, no thanks. Yeah.
But I can't bring myself to do that. Someone was like, okay. You know, it's also like, this was around time when like COVID, you know, like it's like, please everyone keep your distance, you know.
Yeah.
But.
So do you have to like have some sort of real boundaries when you're doing these sort of things, I imagine?
Yeah. There's
Because people are weird.
I think people are just like brought up differently.
No, but everyone I've talked to on the show that has fame has had just like these very just intrusive interactions with people, you know?
Yeah, I feel like sometimes, I think when people see you on TV, they feel like they have this connection and some rapport with you, and I feel they forget that those are characters, and you're like living your life, and like you go away, and like, so I think for me, it's more personal when like I'm with my family, and I'm in an outing with them, you know, restaurant or going out, and then they come up and it's a family outing, and they're like, excuse me, can I? And it's like interrupting, you know. I don't get a lot of time with my family when I'm home from working and whatnot, so it's very precious to me, you know, with my niece and whatnot. So that's when I kind of draw the line of like, oh, right now it's not a good time, you know, because I'm like with family. But, you know, before I leave, I'll come over and say hi or something, you know, whatever.
That's got to feel so, ugh.
Yeah.
And you also get angry that they put you in that position. That
Right.
You have to be like that person.
Yeah. Like I've had somebody like, I think it was like in the middle of a phone conversation. I think it was like a heated conversation. I think it was like with an ex or something. And it was like pretty heated. And it was like, you know, going through like a bad breakup. And I was just like, you know, I can't talk or whatever. And they're like waiting for you to be done yelling or like having this like really uncomfortable, you know, conversation on the phone.
Just to get a picture.
Just to get a picture, and they're like waiting. They're like, "Hi, just gonna wait for." You dropped the phone. They're just waiting for you to be done, and like you could be like in tears, crying, be like, "I'm not a good time," you know.
Yeah.
You're like in public and trying to get out and trying to like. This is also like your personal life, you know. So
I'll
like,
never understand that
Yeah, when people are just like, I'm gonna wait. I think this will clear up.
I've been in front of people that, like, would die to talk to them. And the last thing I would want to do is go
Bother
up
them.
to them and say a word, just anything.
Yeah, I think I did maybe one time. I was pretty young, and I saw Jamie Lee Curtis, and I was like, "Oh, I have to say, I'm such a Halloween fan."
Yeah.
And
That's a good one.
I've met like the director. You know what I mean? Like it's just like, so I was just like, "Oh my god, I have to." And this was like years ago. This was like around the same time when I had my first show on ABC Family, and I saw her and I was like, I have to. Do I have to? And I hate being that person because I've never done that. Never.
Was this an industry thing? Or
Yeah, I was at the
okay.
premiere of Wreck-It Ralph, the movie. And I got invited by a friend who was going to the premiere and was like, hey, come to that. I was like, oh my God. I was just doing television. Like I just started doing television and film. And I was pretty young. And I was like, okay. And I saw her and I was like, oh my gosh, there's Lily Curtis. I should go say hi. And I was like, no, I shouldn't. No, I should. No, I shouldn't. But when's the next chance you're going to get? Talking to myself. And finally, my friend's like, just go ask, she's human just like you. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And I go up there, my first attempt at talking to like celebrity like that, and I was like, hi, I'm sorry to interrupt, do you mind? And then like, as soon as I said that, she turned around, and I think she was having a bad day, and I was like, no! And she was all, I'll tell you what, I'll come find you, and I'll take a picture with you. And I was like, she never came. But
that makes my heart break.
I know, but I knew that she has every right to say no.
No, of course.
She has every right. But
of course.
Yeah.
I'm not dogging her.
No.
That just,
You're dogging me.
a little bit. I mean, but it's a very uncomfortable.
It is. Years later, though, I was in Las Vegas promoting at a Cinecon for promoting Puss in. Oh.
We're in LA, so
LA.
we're gonna get sirens.
This is LA, baby.
This is LA.
They're coming here, actually.
They're gonna arrest you for selling cans. And you met her.
I met her at. I was promoting
You gotta
Puss in
try
Boots.
this, by the
Oh
way.
yeah, Puss in Boots I was about to come out, so we're doing the Cinecon thing.
Oh yeah, you were a voice in Puss in Boots, right?
Yeah, I was Perrito.
That's awesome.
And that was like the new addition to already existing Puss and Kitty Southpaws, which is played by Salma Hayek and Antonio Banderas. So that alone was a big thing because growing up they were mom and dad, like they were the two Latinos who were thriving in Hollywood. And then to be asked to do a movie to play opposite them, and there was the three of us,
So
three
cool.
friends. I was like, that's so cool. And then it came full circle when I was in Las Vegas promoting the film. Jamie Lee Curtis was promoting Halloween, and it was like I saw her in the green room, and she came up and was the sweetest, nicest person, and it only proved I caught her in a bad day, and that's totally fine. And sometimes
Or just a bad moment.
a bad moment, and you're gonna catch actors in a bad day, and that's the memory that people are gonna remember. That's unfortunate, but people are allowed to have bad days. And sometimes I
course.
have I feel for like when it's like someone asked for an autograph and they said get out of my way, and it's like maybe
Yeah.
they got tired that day. Bad rude behavior is not justifiable, and that's not what that is. I feel like everyone's allowed to like have space and so she was the nicest person ever.
Did you tell her that she?
I did not know that story because it was like we were in a room and the photographer was like, take pictures together. And they were putting me and her together because we were there promoting the film. And I was just like, oh my God, she really gracious. But also, remember I got it? Like in my head, I was like, I asked you. And then you said, I'll come find you. And you did.
And you didn't.
Yeah.
Do you like doing these like celebrity things, these like galas and red carpets and?
I'm a social person. I like people. Not everyone's like that, but I like talking to people. I'm always interested to hear about someone's story and because everyone has a background and what they, where they came from and where they're going. And I always like to hear stories. I'm a storyteller and I love to hear stories.
Have you ever met like one of your heroes and they disappointed you? Other than Jamie Lee Curtis?
She didn't disappoint me. Jamie, if you're looking. And I saw her at the Oscars also.
Yeah.
And she was lovely.
Okay, forget that.
Yeah.
Have you ever met a hero that disappointed you?
No, nothing disappointed me.
No?
No, I'm very lucky, I guess. Where I haven't met all my heroes yet,
Who's someone you're dying to meet?
You know what? It's so funny.
Let's set it up.
Yeah, let's set it up. I really loved.
We're
growing up-
infested, by the way.
We're literally
We are
in
infested.
a dumpster. Right
Yeah,
now.
we're like bug infested.
We're in a dumpster, guys.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
Oscar the Grouch just goes down. Nah, what are you losers doing?
All right, one more time, let me ask that. Who is someone you're dying to meet?
We're in a dumpster.
So, do you think Hollywood is dead?
Now on a lighter note.
On a lighter note,
What do you mean by dead?
do you think that the allure is gone?
I mean, I always think of Hollywood as in decades because
Okay.
the acting style changes, comedy changes, and so when I look at old like reruns of like a 1970s film or project and who got cast in that and what was the equivalent of was perceived to be the best acting around, it's always different.
Yeah.
Right? When you think of like, even 1930s and 40s black and white films, the transatlantic accent, it's like, when I married you,
Yeah.
I love you from the start. It's like even the way that light and so
Totally. And they talk really
dramatic and-
fast, too.
Yeah, it's like, you listen here, broad, and it's usually a man shaking a woman uncontrollably.
Yeah. Not listen here,
No, listen here, broad. Yeah, let's drop it. And it's just like, that was normalized, and it's
Yeah.
like, that's not cool. Not cool now, it wasn't cool then, but it was accepted then. And then it changes, like comedy's different, even sitcoms are different.
But what about the way people consume things? Because that to me is where,
Well, that's what's
I don't want to say
scary.
dead. Dead is like extreme and nothing's dead. But
I think that's what's scary. I think because it's people consume things so quickly that I think as human beings we're fickle and like we want things now, faster every day, every year. It has to be faster, which is a little terrifying because people get mad if like their show's not back in the air within like a couple months, and it's like it takes a while.
Yeah.
Like when like Game of Thrones, when it takes a while to make, and people are like, "Why is it taking so long?" It's like because they shoot in like
yeah.
6 continents and blah blah blah, and
Yep.
locations and this and weather and people are like, no one cares. No one cares. No one wants to hear excuses.
No.
They want instant gratification.
Yes.
And that's a little scary.
But what about the idea that even people are watching these things and they're watching it like this?
I mean, the thing is, I get when people are on the go, but that's a little scary because something we said about I think about like.
You're in the industry,
Yeah.
but admit to me, you've sat and watched a show and then gone on your phone
Yeah.
and went on Instagram
Yeah.
or TikTok.
Yeah.
And then you realize,
During a commercial break, you're like-
or not even. You're watching a show on
Well, when I'm watching
you
a
know.
show, I try to be like engaged.
Okay, well,
with the
you're
show.
in the industry.
Okay, yeah.
So it's like your craft and you have a different thing. But I will say, most people, they're watching something and then they get caught up in here for a second and then they get back to it and they're like, oh yeah, I just missed like 5 minutes of that.
Yeah, I think the
And they're
phone
like, well, I
does
don't
take
really
away
care.
from that, or socials,
Yeah.
But is it because of that the industry's dead? I don't know if it's dead. I think that is.
No, that was an extreme way to do it. I just
think
wanted to.
It sheds its skin and it evolves, and every so often it does that. That's why we're always going forward. We don't go back. So.
Do you think people care about celebrities the same?
I don't know. There was, looking back at the old days where like your private life was not public, and now, like you said, people want to consume more, and if you keep something from the audience, they think you're lying to them. But then if you're giving them too much, like I've had enough, So there's almost like what do you want? Like it's like you want to know who I'm dating? It's like, yeah, tell me. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's enough. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah,
it's almost like,
so
what is
true.
it? And it's almost like a toxic relationship because
Yeah,
it's like
with everyone.
Someone, yeah, with it's weird, It's like dating someone, which I did, like narcissistic, who like they love bomb you and they give you so much, and then you're like, oh, that feels so good, like, Dad, take it away. And you're like, what is it? And it's like, oh, you want it, and they like tease you with it, and then you're like, oh, well, I want it. What was before? Oh, you want it? Well, maybe I'll give it to you.
Jeez.
And then you're like, no, please, what do I have to do? So I feel like sometimes that's kind of the relationship I feel that the industry has, where the actor is trying to be like, do you still? It's like, maybe. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
but you were so nice to me when I won my Academy Award or whatever it is, You were so
Yeah.
nice to me when I got my Grammy. Yeah, well, that was then. And it's
Yeah.
like they keep it away from you, and as an actor, you're
But
like,
I feel like Hollywood's always been like that, though, hasn't it?
yeah, but now it's even more. I think that maybe it's more of a dangling of a carrot, because the audience does have the control and the buying power,
Yeah.
and they can also say, we don't like that person, let's cancel them.
Yep.
And they cancel that person. Like, why did you cancel? Meh, I was bored. And just
not
like
making us our bottom
yeah,
dollar.
it's like I didn't like you were dating. What's that to do with my craft? I did. Well, it doesn't. But I have the power. It's a little
Yeah.
bit like, oh, because that's kind of scary.
That
It's
is.
no longer based on like what a great actress she is or what a great actor they are. It's more like
It just gets personal.
It gets personal, and then when it gets personal, it hurts more because it's more like targeted. It was like, wait, don't you?
Has that happened to you at all, or no?
I mean, I'm very fortunate. I mean, you're not for everybody. Like I know that my kind of acting, maybe not for everybody, but I've been very fortunate that for the most part, people are very like receptive to the stuff I do.
Yeah.
I always take a job, and sometimes, in the past you take jobs that are like, we're not your favorite to take, but you needed to pay rent, And I always make a goal, whether it's something that I love that I'm going to do, or something that I'm doing for a friend, or something that I'm not sure about how that's going to come out because it comes out to editing or whatnot, or like the budget for special effects, or whatever. But I always say I'm always going to do my part at the best of my ability, ability. I can't talk. Another one of these, please. And a mariachi. Is a mariachi here?
It does sound like that. We had fun with the AI thing before. But it is actually a serious topic with Hollywood.
Yeah.
Do you think about this? Does it freak you out?
Yeah, it's a little freaky, I think it was a funny story. Like last summer, I was in London with my friend Hale, and we went to the ABBA experience, and it was a holograms kind of like thing. And the show starts, and it's beautiful, and it's in this dome, and it looks like you're immersive, like it's like really cool. And then at one point, we're looking at this, and it looks so real. It looks like ABBA's on stage performing, and he just looks over at me and goes like, "I think we're out of a job." And he said that jokingly, but also like it was very like, "Wait, what? Oh my God!" And then even recently, like there was an award show that announced nominations for Best Actor and Best Comedy and whatnot, and I was nominated, which is really nice. But the picture they used,
you said that they used
an AI picture, and I was like, when did I? That is me, right? And I had to double think myself. I was like, no, that's my eyes, that's my nose, that's my hair. I don't remember wearing that shirt. When did I wear this shirt? And even my sister was like, that's not you. And I was like, well, why would they use it? It's a award show. It's like, they probably went online and Googled your name, and one of the AI pictures came up, and they said, that's a good one, let's drag it. The scary thing is that we get now to create video and content that maybe show someone in a negative light. That's scary because it could be like, look what we found. It's like, that's not even them. It's like, prove it. It's like, well, I'm trying to, but it's like, well, that's not them.
What if they do that with like world leaders?
Right. And that is true, because people are easy, are trigger happy. They're just like, as soon as they see something on screen, they're like, that happened. Or as soon as your Facebook pops up and says, shouldn't you hate this person? It's like, I should. It's like
that's the stuff that keeps me up at night.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff.
Yeah.
With AI. Mm-hmm. Way more than them
seeing a dumpster.
Or like doing special effects or something. I feel bad for all the people that spend hours doing special effects. Like, they might be in trouble. Yeah. Right.
And also, it's at the core of it, there's so many talented artists out there, and then AI kind of robs them from showing their creativity. I know so many artists who are great at animation and whatnot, and then when you throw in, just draw me someone with bunny ears and blah blah and this and that, and you let AI do it and for you, it takes away the possibility of an artist to express, show their art. Look at where we're at, like where we didn't have this conversation 20 years ago.
Yeah, no way.
Do you know what I mean? So like, what kind of conversation will we have in another 20 years? Oof. So
be two floating heads.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be a fly jumping from food.
And our segment's gonna be human-made scripts that we're gonna try.
Remember those old-timey human-made scripts?
Yeah, human scripts that we're
Let's read this. But it takes us a couple of weeks to get the writers.
No human would have come up with Donnie Frankfurter.
No, Academy Award nominee and winner.
Donnie Frankfurter, that's true.
I was really hoping for, Dirty Chair to win, but.
Harvey, honestly, thank you so much for this. Putting up with me.
Yeah.
I love you.
Love you.
And we can turn our phones back on now.
Oh,
and just see what's happening in the world. What do you think's happened?
It says the fire truck is driving by.
Oh.
It just turned on and goes.
After spending a lovely day with Harvey, I feel sufficiently inspired. Harvey has given me a masterclass in acting and comedic prowess. And even though I completely failed that masterclass, I learned to stay in the moment. Yes, folks, AI may attempt to entertain us in many ways, but it will not replace the will and the determination to make each other laugh. Thank you, Harvey Guillén, for the guidance, the comedy gold, and the discovery of the infamous Donnie Frankfurter.
Hey, if you enjoyed the show,
like and subscribe
down below. Should we just do this for 5 minutes?